We're in a bubble right now, and the only thing that looks good is the stock market, but if you raise interest rates even a little bit, that's going to come crashing down. We are in a big, fat, ugly bubble, and we better be awfully careful. And we have a Fed that's doing political things.
Donald Trump slamming the Federal Reserve at last night's presidential debate, accusing Janet Yellen of waiting until after the presidential election to raise interest rates in order to keep the stock market going up, to make President Obama look good and help Hillary Clinton get elected. And here's what Hillary had to say about Trump's economic plan.
And the kind of plan that Donald has put forth would be trickle-down economics all over again. In fact, it would be the most extreme version, the biggest tax cuts for the top percents of the people in this country than we've ever had. I call it trumped-up trickle-down, because that's exactly what it would be. That is not how we grow the economy.
With me now, author and economist Ben Stein. Who's right here, Ben?
Well, Mrs. Clinton doesn't know her ass from her elbow, if I may say such a crude thing on the air about economics. Mr. Trump's economic plans are actually quite good. Cutting the corporate income tax rate would be a great way to keep corporations in America. Every important economist of the 20th century in America has said that cutting corporate tax, in the 20th and 21st century, has said that cutting or eliminating the corporate tax rate would be a good idea. Cutting it altogether, a really, really good idea. I don't know why Mr. Trump himself didn't bring that up when he was asked at the very beginning, how will you bring jobs back? Eliminate the corporate tax, have all the earnings be attributed directly to the stockholders. It's not trickle-down economics. It's a way of encouraging people to invest, and it's a very sound way. I must say, Mr. Trump is not my idea of a dream person and a saint in human garb, but he has a pretty darn good economics plan. It's not trickle-down at all. There is no such thing as trickle-down. The whole idea of cutting taxes on well-to-do people is to get more investment, and that is a perfectly sensible thing to do.
Yeah, and it would cut the tax rate on small businesses who've gone upside down in their growth in terms of small business creation. And we've got a lot of trickle-down government going on as well. But you said Donald Trump is actually brave to propose cutting back regulations. Why brave?
But because regulation is an almost completely dead weight on the economy. There was a genius economist named Ed Dennison who did a book, the most important book about economic growth that's ever been written, and he said the #1 offender in a free market economy against growth is excess regulation. We now have wildly excess regulation, especially in the field of energy. Mr. Trump is totally right to say he's going to cut back on that drastically. That's a very, very good idea. Helps every region of the country. I cannot understand why the Democrats are so in love with regulation, except I guess they love giving jobs to bureaucrats. Ending regulation, or not ending it, but cutting down on it dramatically, is a straightforward way to improve economic growth. Again, Mr. Trump is not Adam Smith. He's not the world's greatest genius about economics, but his tax plan is a very sound, sensible plan.
And your point's well taken about regulations, because the government has basically almost practically nationalized health care, moving in on the internet, the energy sector, the banks, and bureaucrats who don't have...
The bank thing has been a disaster. That was the Democratic Congress, Dodd-Frank, essentially very, very much suppressing bank lending. A disaster. They keep interest rates low with the zero interest rate policy, kills retirees, but because of Dodd-Frank, the banks can't lend.
Yeah, that's true. That is what's going on. Both candidates say they're against the TPP, the trade policy, but you're for it. Why?
Free trade is a benefit to everyone. It's not everyone, but it's a benefit to the great majority of people. Both Mr. Trump and Mrs. Clinton, I think, are mistaken in being against free trade. Yes, free trade does hurt workers in manufacturing. There's no doubt about it. They should be compensated. They should be retrained. But free trade is a major engine of economic growth and prosperity. We should not be against it in either party.
You have disagreements also with both nominees, but who's looking better to you now?
Well, Mr. Trump is certainly not my idea of an ideal debater. I mean, I thought his performance in the debate was kind of flaccid. But I think the more I think about it, his economic plans make a lot of sense. And I'm really, really upset with Mrs. Clinton for her comments about how racist America is and how racist the justice system is. That is just pure race-baiting nonsense, and she should be ashamed of herself for whipping up racial hatred.
Ben Stein, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it, sir.